Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Victoria Tundu. I'm Abiola.
Good morning.
Yes, radiant as always.
How kind.
Now, let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, Ukraine. Putin puts nuclear deterrent forces on alert. USA's move, dangerous, unacceptable. More countries ban Russian flights. Ukraine gets more support from allies. BP to exit 19.75% shareholding in Rosneft. Russians rush for dollars as sanctions threaten ruble collapse. Federal government secures exit routes for fleeing Nigerians. U.S. hypocritical about Russian-Ukraine war, says Sanders. FIFA bans matches in Russia as 3 European countries refuse to play country in World Cup qualifiers. Yes, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is occupying the front pages of many newspapers in Nigeria and abroad. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, Russia-Ukraine war, Romania-Hungary, approve free visa entry for Nigerians, while the Punch newspaper is reporting Russia-Ukraine war, fuel scarcity may persist, oil vessels face delay on sea, tanker freight rate, insurance premium climb in 3 days, more vessels avoid black Mediterranean seas over attacks. While the Daily Independent newspaper reporting Nigeria's foreign debt may bar banks raising extra capital. The Daily Trust newspaper, anxiety as Atiku, Tinubu, other aspirants no fate on February 3. We will comply with timetable.
June 3rd.
June 3rd. Thank you. Now, we'll comply with timetable, APC, PDP, others. Initiative, laudable, but don't. Early start will help process CDD. National Assembly, Buhari delays cause of frenzy. NNPP scribe. Now, the foreign newspapers, quickly. Foreign newspapers, the Times of UK, Putin puts nuclear force on alert. While the Financial Times also reporting the same story, Putin puts nuclear force on alert. Now, the Daily Telegraph, Putin issue nuclear threat. The Wall Street Journal, talks set to start as war rages. Troops, citizens hold line in Kiev as Western allies step up efforts to punish Russia for attack. Yes, the talks. After the war, there has to be talks to end the war. But the talks between Russia and Ukraine, what is it going to achieve now? Because there were opportunities for talks before Russia attacked Ukraine. But Russia was expecting to have that dialogue with the USA to give security guarantees, US and its Western allies, about its own security. Yes, to think that Russia is superpower, no matter how weak it has become, cannot have its felt influence. I think that in itself will be part of the rudimentary teachings in international relations. Russia still have a sphere of influence, just like the US. Can you imagine? Mexico, as Bernie Sanders argued, being an ally of Russia. Will the US accept that? After all, what was the cause of the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962? US say, no, it's not possible to have your missiles in our backyard, but you want to have your missiles in the backyard of Russia. Putin, he said no to that. How he has gone about it, not the best, but talks will commence at some time. Russia feeling the pinch already of the sanctions. Ruben, Rufai, and Tundu, if we have time.
Oh, do we? Well, you might want to.
I should? Okay. There's a lot to unpack here, if we have the time. But number one thing that has shown from this war is the fact that Russian army is not as strong as we claim it is. Putin has broken that cloak of invincibility. Thirdly, this is the fine time for the West to take him out. And I enunciate the point. His plan was to invade Ukraine, by now to get into Ukraine, get into Kiev, and probably seize power and put in some sort of like a Vichy government in place.
Well, your theory of military not strong as you think it is not correct. America, for how many years, could not overwhelm Afghanistan?
Very good. So I can also give you an instance with the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
So maybe this powers are not as strong. Maybe there's a big difference.
It doesn't mean the military is not as strong as you
maybe
think.
there's a big difference between artillery, all right, and getting the job done on ground. With all the bombs the Americans have, they too couldn't succeed in Vietnam. So maybe they are not as strong as we claim they are. But another thing I'd like to enunciate in all of this is part of the fact that his plans are already in shambles. That's why he wants to talk. Vladimir Zelensky did call Putin a day before he invaded. Putin wouldn't take his calls. But all of a sudden, after day 2, when Putin saw the resistance and their copious notes about Russian soldiers dissenting, in fact, there was a platoon that said, we will not fight on ground in Ukraine. When he saw that, then he wants to talk. And Zelensky says, okay, we'll only talk if we talk to me on the border, close to the Pripyat River. What is obvious in all of this?
But Putin sent a long proposal to the West. He wanted to talk. But they rejected his request outright.
The truth of the matter is, what he sent in the proposal was saying nothing.
It was saying something.
No.
It's just that it was unacceptable.
It was saying
to the
nothing.
West.
So if you know that what you're saying is unacceptable, there's a no deal. It's as good
there
as
has to
saying
be
nothing.
a basis for negotiation.
So if
something
Putin
on the
knows
table
that,
to discuss, and you say we cannot accept
and if Putin
anything.
knows that he won't get his way, it was based on that he invaded. So this man is not as strong as he claims he is. The sanctions are kicking in. I hear this morning, America has pulled out some Russian banks from SWIFT. This is the time to take him out and deal with him once and for all. If Putin,
not as simple as
if Putin wants his homeland,
yes.
Why didn't he invade Russia under Viktor Yanukovych? Why didn't he invade Ukraine under Yanukovych? But because Yanukovych was his puppet and he could, rub shoulders and do his worst with Yanukovych because Yanukovych was always going to be loyal to him. And this talk about Luhansk and Donetsk started with Yanukovych. When Yanukovych didn't get re-election during the Orange Revolution in Ukraine and they pushed him out, he was the first person to moot the idea that, then we will return Luhansk and Donetsk back to the Russians because he's actually from the eastern region. So he knows the game he's playing, and he's been defeated in that game, and he's a disgrace. And that's why we should be careful with power, because the world has shown that if you think you're so powerful and you can trample on other people, just wait before the resistance happens.
He pushed it too far, that's the issue.
Yes.
But now he's reaching for nukes, and that's always been my worry, as you know, Dr. Abati. The sleepless nights I had in the 80s are returning because Vladimir Putin is backed into a corner. I think what needs to be done now is find a graceful way for him to exit. Give him some kind of dignity, because obviously Ukraine has run rings around him, and he did not expect this. Everybody keeps going on about the president being a comedian, as if comedy doesn't require any kind of wit. He wasn't even a slapstick comedian.
Yes.
It's actually more of satire, because I took the time to watch his show. It's actually quite intelligent. But even apart from that, it's nothing to do with intellect. It's about heart. It's all about heart, and the people have shown heart. Dr. Abati was talking earlier about the former president. Did you see the former Miss Ukraine has taken up arms? Those people love their country, and I think Putin just completely miscalculated it. Even his own people are protesting, knowing for certain that they will be imprisoned for their efforts. They're still coming out in their numbers to protest against him. He really did overreach, but now with a person like him, because we all saw what happened with Hitler, with their fragile little egos, he has to be given some kind of, dignified way out of the mess he's created.
Okay, very quickly, I'll try to be as brief as possible. You mentioned comedy. What we teach in dramaturgy, quoting Hugo Paul, is that comedy is for those who think.
Exactly.
Tragedy is for those who feel. And comedy is the most intellectual of all the dramatic forms that we teach our students. So it would be wrong to say, oh, because Zelensky is a comedian, then it's not, he doesn't know what he's doing. However, there are no easy answers in international relations or international law or in a war situation. It would be wrong to write off, Vladimir Putin at this point. To be absolutely wrong. For, his strategy, maybe to just embark on showboating, brinkmanship, and try to see if he can use that opportunity to push back the allies and achieve the objective of stopping the advancement of NATO, either in Sweden, Finland, or in Ukraine.
Mission
I believe that Russia has enough capacity.
It's done that.
If we put the two countries together, Ukraine is not in a position to stand up. And with NATO not going directly into the fight,
there will be no contest, really.
Russia still has the upper hand. What we can appeal for is that diplomacy should triumph, reason should prevail at the end of the day, because of the implications for the balance of global relations, for the international financial system, because at the end of the day, as we have seen in previous wars, we will all be losers in this matter. Yes. And that's why I agree that, all voices of reason should speak up.
Ruben, let me throw one in quickly. It has also been suggested. Yes, the President Zelensky, the comedian.
Stop using that phrase.
No. That's his profession.
Okay.
If you say Ruben, the analyst or the dramatist, I wouldn't be saying anything wrong about you.
Okay.
Because it's part of your training.
No, I thought you were using it in a derogatory.
No. He must have also committed some comedy of errors. But that's another issue altogether.
He's teaching me drama.
But what I'm saying,
nice.
no, the point I'm bringing, Ruben, is that, look, for the sake of Ukrainian people, wouldn't also be quite appropriate if Ukraine say, look, we are not a satellite state of Russia, and we are not part of NATO. We're a neutral country.
That's the best thing to happen.
That should be the best thing, because for all we're saying, the battle and the war is taking place in Ukrainian soil.
Anyway.
And the brunt of war will be felt there.
And NATO doesn't even want Ukraine. That's the irony. NATO doesn't want you.
Let's go.
So what's all this about?
Even Zelensky is saying that the 27 leaders in the EU, that they are afraid of...
Everybody's afraid of Putin. But NATO knows that. It would have been a bridge too far. And they didn't give Ukraine their path into NATO. They've been asking since after the Orange Revolution to radio silence, crickets. Even Zelensky tried to ask when the Hunter Biden issue was happening. NATO knows that it will be crossing a red line. So let everybody just clarify that, and let's have peace.
NATO says it's open to many members.
But they cannot.
They know they cannot.
They cannot be at the backyard.
They have not given Ukraine the MAP.